Hey again, YouTubers. Today we're going to be sanding down a motorcycle fairing, a Harley fairing that I airbrushed and I cleared for a friend of mine, and got a little bit of dirt in the clear. So today I'm going to be sanding all that crap out of there and trying to make it look a little bit more presentable. This is long overdue. The dude's been real patient about getting it, and hopefully we're going to meet his expectations, maybe surpass them. So let's see what I can show you as far as what kind of dirt, what I'm talking about. And we're going to try and get all this crap out, make this thing look a little bit better. The orange peel, yeah, a little bit of orange peel there, but primarily I just want to get these nasty dirt specks out. You see a couple over in here. It looks like fish eyes over here, and the process for removing fish eyes. There's another one over here. Is the same as removing dirt. Basically, you want to make sure that you got enough clear, because we're going to be sanding all this crap out. So let's go round up some tools and make this happen. Here's some basic tools that you're probably going to need in order to do something like this. The various pads and compounds. You see a lot of 3M stuff in front of you right now. That's not because I get anything back from 3M. It's just because I found that that's what works, and usually it's easy to get. You need a polisher, which is not the same as an angle grinder or a giant grinder. The key thing here is that it's variable speed. It has to be variable speed. This is a Harbor Freight version. I've had decent luck with it, except for the backing pad's a little bit cheap. I had to glue the Velcro back onto the foam backer. So, and a variable speed electric drill. Because what I'm working with is a lot of small parts. Motorcycles are all tight curves, and basically what you would end up using to do, like on a car, you would use a big foam pad like this. We can actually get away with using smaller stuff because of the curves. One of these is a headlight restore kit, which has got a couple different grades of sandpaper, and it's got the real nice 3M Trizact, I think is what they call it. It's like a 3500 grit sandpaper. This stuff is just, it's bomb. It's awesome. And then it's also got a foam backer, which these are a lot more durable than the one that I got from HF. But and then the other one is a scratch removal kit from 3M. Both of those were just upwards of 20 bucks, and I've used them both several times on different projects, and they're definitely worth what I paid for them. I got no complaints from that. Back to what I was saying earlier, I wouldn't go make a motorcycle fairing your first project, as the curves, the small contours and everything, it's a whole lot more tricky to do versus, say, the hood on a car or something where it's a whole lot more flat area. There's a lot more things that you need to know about, and you got to secure your work so that it doesn't just go flying off the table. Imagine if this were to fly off of the table and fall down and into that bed of gravel right there. You know, if it didn't ruin the project instantly, I'd have a whole lot more work cut out for me just because of a stupid mistake. So definitely secure your work and make sure that it's not going to fly over, because when you're sanding and or using the power tools anyways, if you're spinning them a certain way, they can catch on some of the edges, and it'll try like hell to flip your project and ruin it for you. So you gotta, think ahead at some of these things. Not that you should be near the edges anyways. That's one of the other points that I wanted to talk about, was you don't want to sand close to the edge, because you'll actually burn through the clear so fast you won't even have time to react. So one of the other things, I know I'm jumping around a bunch here, I don't see it, that's why I didn't mention it, is water. You're going to need a bunch of water. The key to this is keeping everything wet and clean. So bathe it in between steps, bathe it before you get started, and you got to keep you don't want cross contamination. You know, if you're going to go from a buffing compound to a polishing compound, which is like coarse to fine, you don't want any of the coarse to be stuck into your fine, otherwise you'll never get anywhere. You'll be going backwards the whole time, and you'll end up with swirl marks and stuff like that. See the cars going down the road that have swirl marks in them, so that's pretty much how that happens. Enough talk, let's get started. What I like to use is just regular spray bottle. Spray this thing down real good. I like a little bit of Dawn dish soap in there. It breaks the surface real nice. And what we're going to start with, and always, if you can, soak your paper, man. Keep your paper wet. Spray the back side, spray the front side. But keep your surface wet. Some people don't like using tap water, like if you got well water. Your well will actually kick up little grains of sand. So if you got a well and you wash your car a lot, and if you watch this, you probably wash your car more than most people. Those little grains of sand sediment will be in your bucket, and it's like taking sandpaper to your paint every time you wash your car. But you didn't know that. You can go to an RV store and get little filters that will filter all that crap out, so that it doesn't hurt your paint, and they'll just go in line. They'll be in line with your spigot, and you can plumb them so that they're kind of permanent fixtures. So I'm just trying to knock all the big dust spots and the high spots down right now with 1000 grit. You can see this white stuff, that's actually clear coat. I'm sanding it off. So if you don't want to be aggressive, stay away from the edges. Just hit the high spots. Let me work on this for a bit and we'll come back and check. You can kind of see what it looks like after you're done with stage one. And rinse it off. Check our work. Alright, when we load the 2000, the first step was 1000 grit to try to keep everything flat so that we could sand down just the high spots. So now we're going to go to 2000 grit, and I'm using a little bit softer foam back pad. I'm not sure what this is originally made for. I think I got it in like the drywall section over at Lowe's or Home Depot, or whatever your favorite hardware store is. And after you figure out that that's gonna fit, man, soak that stuff down, get it good and wet, let that water soak into the paper. Here we go. Again, mindful of your edges. At this point, we want to get everything nice and dull. But it shouldn't be as dull as the areas that have already been hit by the 1000 grit. Again, it's real tricky doing these curves and stuff. This is going to teach you the process, but I don't know that my first trial would be a bike, just because of the magnitude. I mean, there's freaking everything's curved on a bike. There's nothing straight. Except maybe a spoke. People will ask me if I like doing circles or figure eights or what my technique is. Honestly, it depends on what you're working with. Like this area right here is an inside curve. So obviously you can only go in one direction, something like this. See all that milky stuff coming off, that's clear. 2000 might seem really fine, but we're taking material off. So I got 3 layers of a Nason Clear 468. There's a spot and panel repair clear. Seems to have, this is not the first time I've used this clear. I wish I could get more of it, because it's got some really good UV inhibitors in it. I have not seen, these are all water-based paints, and I've never seen any of my paints fade. And I've done some work and it's been sitting outside in the yard, outside in direct UV sunlight exposure in Virginia for over a year with no noticeable color fade. The reason I wash down the sandpaper as well as the work is by shooting directly at the sandpaper. It helps to loosen anything that may be gummed up. It keeps your paper from loading up. But that's also part of using all this water, is it's supposed to keep your paper from loading up. Soap really seems to help with that. You know, I'm not digging on this thing either. I mean, it's kind of light pressure. Hard enough to touch it, but you know, let the sandpaper do the work. If you're smart about it and use your materials wisely, you should get a couple uses out of one of these pieces of sandpaper. Alright, so we just washed off the 2000 grit. Don't be mistaken, 2000 grit is nowhere near done. Alright, so here we go with the Trizact with some power tools. This is where we really start to see an improvement. My technique with this stuff, I'll go around at the perimeter, do the stuff that around the border and the edges, and then I just color in the rest of it. Alright, when it comes time to clean your buffing pad, I don't care what you use, as long as it's not a wire brush. The wires will get stuck in these little foam pads, and then what do you think they're going to do when you spin it at 3200 RPM? It gets that nice soft brand new paint. So I like basically like a glorified toothbrush. We're off to the compound stage. You will get dirty. Don't say I didn't warn you. We'll take a break there for a minute. One thing to remember, if you're doing this at home, you got fresh paint and you go to put the polishing compound on and you're not getting the sheen, or it's not coming out like you think it should, stop. That means your paint hasn't cured enough to polish yet and your paint's still wet. So let the paint sit, let it gas out for a couple more days, then try your polish again, and you'll find out that it'll polish out a lot nicer. This is a spot clear. I used a medium reducer with it at 70 degrees. It was ideal shooting conditions, except I was outside, and that's why I got all the dust in it, which is why we're doing this. Yeah, you're welcome. But this has already been cured for like 3-4 days. It is a minimum of 4 days, otherwise I wouldn't even try this. And definitely do not put wax on any clear that's newer than 30 days old. If you can smell it, it's too early to put wax on it. Wax is meant to seal the paint, and if it can't gas out, it's going to lift on you, and you're going to end up redoing everything, from your artwork on up. Strip it, prime it. I mean, so don't even, if there's any step that you're going to mess up, don't let it be that one. And there we go. Remember them swirl marks I promised you? This is where some people would stop. And I know it's true because I've seen 100 cars going down the road with frickin' swirl marks in them like this. And if you can't see those swirl marks, there's something bad going on with this camera, because blind men on a fast horse can see those. So needless to say, we're getting there, but we ain't done yet. Alright, so next step is to take our polisher and yeah, right. We gotta wash it first. Remember the soap I was telling you about that's in here? You want none of that old compound. None. N-U-N, none. Because if any of that gets on the other wheel, we're going to be screwed. So this is very critical. All the old compound has to come off. Makes good sense, right? Because that's where swirl marks come from. There's going to be a test. Pay attention. I'm just kidding. There's no test. So now you see why when you go to a car show, people don't like it when you touch their cars. Yes, I like my compound shaken, not stirred. The last step. Now, one thing you're going to have to remember with this Meguiar's Ultimate Finish, it's very greasy. So you might be done before you realize you're done. Like if you look over my shoulder, you might still see what looks like swirl marks. It's actually the grease that's left behind. So I'm going to have to wash that off. Then we're going to inspect it and see what it looks like. Alright, here we go. We're done. See, there is not a scratch to be found on it. Not all of the fish eyes came out, but for what it is, it's going to be just fine. Well, there you go. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed watching, and best of luck to you in your fixing paint and polishing endeavors. Later.